So just a quick lesson on this Estudio in E minor by Tarrega, and you can get the free sheet music from the link in the YouTube info section or from This is Classical Guitar, and there's also a tab version. So a couple of things about this piece. This is a pretty good, nice little intermediate piece. Because of the barring in the third bar at the second fret there, I'd put this piece like early intermediate level, but it's worth the effort. It's pretty short, so the barring's not that tough, but if you're not used to barring, it might give you a little bit of trouble. So let's just walk through the piece. Just remember that the melody is in the top voice, the first note of each arpeggio. So if we just play that first note of each group of three, that would be the melody. So everything else is just accompanimental. So you want that melody to really stand out above everything. So when you're playing your arpeggios, don't accent your M and I fingers, but make sure it's just all the weight is on your A finger. Whoops. So putting all the weight on this A finger just to make sure that that melody is really popping out of the texture, and making the piece sound very simple, right? So a nice simple piece, even though there's some good activity happening in the piece as well. So that kind of covers, same thing for the second half. Second half, same thing, practice the melody on its own. You have a high B, make sure you slide up with your third finger. That way your fourth finger is available for there, just kind of a one finger per fret rule. Now let's talk about the barring. Because of that third measure, this piece is a little bit tricky, but still at the early intermediate level. So make sure that you get your bass note and your upper note, because then you have a split second more to kind of get everything else. And because the melody is so important in this piece, I think it's important that you really focus on that upper note. Instead of like focusing on the whole bar and the whole chord, focus on getting that upper note, because that's the first thing that happens and the most important thing. Use a little bit of rubato. You can also tell I'm using a little bit of vibrato, so I'm just rolling back and forth on my finger like this. Not like this, not like pushing the string up, but just rolling on my finger. Just to get a little bit of vibrato and voice out of that. So it's a little bit of a tricky shape, but you know, it's not that bad. Because you can have this finger kind of ready and prepared, and then you just a small leap out, and then just another small little leap. Because of that, it's definitely more on the intermediate level instead of the beginner level, but nevertheless, it's worth it, and it's a good piece to kind of just prepare students for the requirements of barring anyway. The one in bar 7 is the same, so it's just the same trick again. The second half, you just slide this hand up. Just make sure when you slide that you don't mess up your hand position, or that your thumb, if your thumb is here when you're playing the 2nd fret, that it doesn't lag behind the hand. So when you move your hand up, some students, their thumb lags behind their fingers. Make sure you don't do that. Keep your thumb in the correct position. That's usually behind the 2nd finger. So if it looked like this here, then the arm just moves up here, and the hand position and the thumb position remains the same even during the shift. So the thumb should be just in the same position. Nice little bar at the 5th fret. This one's easy. This barring is nice and simple. You still have to jump out of it though, to just down here, but it's kind of a nice little relaxing point. Relax, start again. One quick note about this part. That part's pretty straightforward. You just slide the 4th finger up there and make the shape as the notation suggests, getting the C on the 3rd string at the 5th fret. When you do this next part, make sure you hold on to the bass note and just reach your 4th finger up to B. It's really nice to just keep that bass ringing. So don't do this, letting go of the bass, but instead keep it down. And then it just goes back to the same music as the first line, except for the upper harmonic. If you haven't done harmonics before, you're just resting your finger over top of the metal, so not back here, not over here, but right over top of the metal of the 12th fret. And you touch the strings, but you don't apply any pressure really. You just touch the strings, and you get that nice sound. But if you're a little bit off, you're just going to get this weird muted sound. You have to be right over top of the metal and pushing very lightly to get that nice crisp sound. So really pretty piece, but again, focus mainly on your melody, and then clean up your bars a little bit. Make sure you're sustaining the bass notes as well, and keep the accompaniment notes, the I and M finger, pretty soft so that the melody just rings out and is nice and legato and prominent the whole time. Thanks.